do you pronounce your name Moses or Moises? You'll have to let me know. Anyway, so I thought I would do a quick video just to go over some of your tests right now. Hopefully I'm recording enough of the screen. So first off, I noticed that you drew yourself some roughs. That's a great idea. I highly recommend it for everybody before you're starting, especially if you're new to making sure the poses match and everything. I would recommend though that you do your roughs inside your character symbol, just on the top layer, and guide it out, just like you did here. But put it on the inside because this is mainly for the post people. It's not an extra layer that they have to render out when they're putting the show together. It makes their life easier. So we're going to go into Julie's. As you noticed from the videos I sent, I usually do Julie. So we'll start with her. It is a bit of a rough start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some broad notes, and then I'd like to see you complete them. And then the director's probably going to go over with a finer note to smooth everything out. There is a lot of little sloppy moments, and I recommend that when you are going through, go through frame by frame. And that's your left and right arrow key on your keyboard. You can go through pretty quickly as a shortcut. For example, you, as a human, you don't move your head without moving any other part of your body. Just a hint. And here you've got, see, her neck moves, but her head doesn't move. So I don't know, that's kind of physically impossible. So just always think, is this possible? Also, the eyes, did you redraw any of these assets? Because some of them look a bit off. Also, when you turn the eye, you actually flip the eye. This is the corner, the inner corner of the eye. So that wouldn't be pointing on the out. So it's a little bit of these sloppy things you have to really be careful not to do. Little things like that pop. See, you've got this, like people's torsos don't move like that. And I think it's because you're trying to move everything individually, and you shouldn't be doing that. I also don't see any antic, action, and settle. And it doesn't even have to be long. Here, this is another scene done by, actually I'm not sure which animator did this scene, but they've broken it all into twos. But you can see that they have a small, they antic down like this, then they have the action, and you can see the settle. Do you see how subtle it is? But everything's moving together. See, that's the settle. This is the antic, then the action, settle. Same with here. Do you see how everything's just neatly together? Everything moves together. You never have the neck popping or anything like that. Like, to have her move, everything pops, and you should just be doing her antic first by just, dropping a frame. And it depends on the action. If it's just a short action, you don't have a very long antic, you could just do 2 frames. But if she's turning, I mean, you did do the right thing where you closed her eyes as she's turning, but you've also changed her eye. Also, this looks crooked. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to go inside and see what you've done on the inside. But to antic, make sure that you're moving everything together. You don't want, especially if you're doing a turn, make sure you're moving the pivot point correctly. Well, keep in mind how people move. They would probably go down as they turn, And if she's moving her arm up, this is when you could start her movement. Always change hand symbols in the middle of an action. See how I'm moving the symbols here? Always at the pivot point. You don't want to break that. Never move the neck and head not together. They always, 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 always move together. The only time they wouldn't is if you were just moving them down a bit to emphasize like a head turn, And then just think, if you're moving that way, the braids would swing. So very subtle antic. So as you can see, Very subtle, and everything moves together. And then when you put it on twos, it would look less floaty. And then you do your action. You know, if it's a head turn, we do have the opposite head in here. Like you'll see, she does have other heads. So you should see, you can just flip it in there. You shouldn't ever lose the eye like this. Like the mouth and everything just kind of changes. You didn't have to flip the whole symbol. Because sometimes, like Thibaut, they have headbands and things like that, and you might not want them to end up on the wrong side. So, doing a head turn, you can have her go down. See, messed up my pivot point. Go down. When she does a head turn, I always like to have her go a little bit further so her settle will work. Let's see. Shortcut keys are your favorite. I mean, there. We're just going to do this quick because I only have about 10 minutes to record this video. Make sure your joints are always on. Remember, everything moves together. That way you don't have the weird popping that you do. And if you need a different hand, feel free to create it. Her face looks funny. So, and then you could have her settle. Remember, settling's just very, very subtle. So you had her go down. Ooh. So have her go back up and have her settle back into her head. Up like this. And then you could have her just finish some of her movement very, very subtly. Don't have to make big movements. Just subtle. So when you do your tween though for here, since you did the hand move symbols and the head, yeah, I know, right? So I always go up and I remove the tween for the head and the braids, sorry, pigtails, yeah. And then I'll remove it for this hand. Then you're going to need to go in and you're going to need to do an in-between for these ones. So I usually lock everything else. Now, head turns are always I'd say the trickiest to learn, but once you learn them, they get really easy. So, see how everything else is moving? Now, when you do a head turn, it's going to look like it's a little